maximize her presentation.
If you click on the pin button on his screen, on his presentation screen, that will help to make it a little bigger.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Matt, it's all yours.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your day to go over this. I'm not going to zip through it. There are some things I'm definitely going to highlight. My name is Matt Verdisha, and I work with the Employee Assistance Team here at HealthAdvocate. I've been here in EAP for about 21 years, and I've worked in behavioral health for almost 40. That's a little hard to spit out. I do want to make sure that we're aware that this is going to be different for everybody. I mean, we just had the announcement of kind of no more masks. Some people are going to have difficulty adjusting to that, and we have to kind of give them their space. I think it's kind of a non-judgment thing. But as with everything, you know, people's behavior differs. So we're going to talk about the big transition returning to our workspace. I am aware that for many of you, you never left. I did a presentation for principals in a local school district. And, you know, I have to remain cognizant, even though I've been out of our buildings for almost 15 months, that they have not. So we're going to go through, get some information, and then open it up to Q&A when we're finished. Okay. So having been in this field, and this is something I want us to really think about, our emotional well-being, our overall health is really predicated and held up on three pillars, and that's security, trust, and predictability. And I think for many, predictability still remains challenged. It certainly was throughout the past 14 months. You know, who would have predicted that we'd be educating, going out to dinner or not, going to sporting events or not? So predictability is challenged. And that really does cause a certain amount of distress for many people. We like to be in control, and we like things that are predictable. Most people don't really enjoy surprises. And I think what we're looking at is, you know, it really isn't predictable. We're not sure what it's going to be like when we do return. And think about this not just for you professionally, but personally as well. It's going to be different. I know in Pennsylvania, we're still virtual for many of our school children. Colleges are still virtual. Restaurants are just only now starting to open up to larger capacity. So again, we're kind of tenuous. We're kind of not really sure where we're going yet. And anything we can do to increase predictability is going to help us adapt, as we have been, to the challenges that are facing us as we go forward. So I always think about this, you know, we're all in the same storm, just in a different boat, just as an example, so you know what I'm talking about. So I have two young adult children. I have to pay for their education, but I don't have to provide it in the house. So again, we all have different coping mechanisms. We all have different stressors, and we look at things differently. And what I'd like to hear, one of the first questions I hope that we can have answered is, what's it been like for you, personally and professionally, over the past year? What tweaks or hacks have you put into place to make our lives a little bit more predictable, to kind of keep us emotionally grounded? So basically, there are 5 types of team members: those that never left, those that work from home and always have. We have many who are hybrid. I'm one of those. I have an opportunity to go into the office. So when we do return, it isn't going to be really that distressful, I hope. Those that want to return into the workplace, there are those who are chomping at the bit and want to return into that workplace, to have those organic conversations again, to solve issues in the hallway, and just to see people that we know and care about. You know, and for many folks, the research has shown that they really want to remain virtual. They've proven that they can be effective. It's proven that they can be productive. And for many people, it's going to be hard to wrap their head around, why do I have to go back? And think about those who never left. So again, with their past, either understanding that they were, like my wife is a nurse, and things going back for her now, her traffic is starting to increase incredibly. And obviously they're starting to get a little bit busier. And you have routines when you are at work and not in a virtual environment, and those routines are going to be disrupted as we go back into our workspace. And not thinking about that and planning for that ahead of time is not going to help us adapt. We want to think about it, think about what some of our triggers might be, what some of our reactions might be, and manage those objectively, and not allow our bias and our judgment and our emotion to make those decisions. So think about this personally and beyond, just how our jobs and our lives are impacted. There isn't one service in this country or in the world that has not been impacted in some way. And for many, they think that impact is very, very disruptive. But for many organizations and industries, they really thrived through this pandemic. So really kind of think about it just kind of beyond what we're doing. A lot of this is impacting us. So just kind of consider that we did rapidly deploy many of us out, and we were kind of building that ship on its way out of the harbor. Now, at least, I think we have an opportunity to be a little bit, I don't even know if this is a word, but to be a little bit more planful. We can kind of look ahead and see what that's going to be like. And we can plan for that. Again, objectively, not looking at things as good or bad, positive or negative, black or white, looking at it kind of neutrally, without bias and judgment. And that way we can make decisions. I've always found information to be the greatest stress reliever you can have. You may not like what you hear, but at least you have information so you can make decisions that help move us forward. So many people did not leave that workplace. We've shown an innate capacity for incredible resilience and our ability to adapt. And I'm not trying to dismiss certainly the tragedies that many people experienced over the past 14 months. It does appear now that we do have a plan. It's tenuous, it's flexible, it's ever changing, but it does make things a little bit more predictable. So that should have an opportunity to kind of decrease some of the stress and distress that we have in a rapidly changing environment. And I do believe that emotional recovery is occurring. And again, I always kind of say, don't let a crisis go to waste. One thing that this pandemic definitely did was kind of blow the lid off people's emotional and mental health. And I know organizations struggled in the beginning, but they're trying to plan and provide other resources to make sure that people's emotional health, again, though tenuous at times, at least we have resources to help them. And please remember that you do have the Employee Assistance Program and Work-Life Resource. There's no expense. It's confidential by federal law. We have a very objective and very deep website that can help. And EAP is far beyond just drugs and alcohol and mental health. Many people are juggling the needs of their parents financially. There's an emotional strain that comes with that, and the EAP can assist you with those issues. Again, you're going to hear me say frequently, we want to be more proactive and less reactive, and continue to walk around with buckets of compassion, really thinking about the need to be flexible, especially now because we're not really sure where things are going. We have a plan, but likely there are going to be setbacks and changes along the way. So I think a lot of people still are concerned. Your routine and schedule that we adapted to are now going to be disrupted, and we're going to have to tweak that. For many people, your time on the road is going to increase. I mentioned my wife. Her commute usually in another world took almost an hour and a half. We're outside Philadelphia, depending on traffic. She's now in 45 minutes, and she's loving it, and is going to be discouraged when that time of her commute increases. The workspace layout, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I know for many organizations, it's going to be very different. And we really have to think about the culture and how that has changed. For ourselves, when we onboarded a number of people, they haven't had an opportunity really to meet their team face to face. They haven't had a time to really acclimate to the culture. The culture now is, you're seated, you're at home, and you're just kind of working nonstop. Many people too are concerned about those fiefdoms and silos. So let's say, just as an example, that I work with you and you and I really didn't get along, and having that opportunity to be out away from one another was very, very satisfying. Well, now we might have, a little bit of concern and anxiety about having to go back into that environment. And our whole work-life balance does need to be resynced. And I always see work-life balance not as something that's attainable. It's not something that you go, aha, I have it. It's right here. I have it. It's a cycle, not something that we attain. It's something we always put energy and time into in an effort to achieve that work-life balance. And quite honestly, since I'm still remote, I just consider it life balance. It's no longer work-life balance because my work and my life are under the same brick and mortar. 3 in 4 adults regularly feel stressed, according to the American Psychological Association. And I think likely that has increased. 3 out of 4, it's quite a high percentage, especially as a result of the events of 2020 and how they shadow us coming into 2021. 40% of full-time U.S. employees said in a July survey they were either burned out or coming close to it. And that is real. So even though we may not be feeling that or feeling that, we are impacted by others. So again, something we want to keep a lookout for changes in our own behavior and changes in other people's behavior. If it seems out of characteristic form, understand when we are distressed, it always shows in behavior. And if that's the case, it always shows in performance. So again, and that's personally and professionally. So Gallup indicated 58% continue to work remotely, 39 return to work, 44 prefer to continue to work remotely. So just kind of think about where you are in all of this, and hopefully we have an opportunity to share that with our peers on this call. So we do have choices and options, but understand in every decision we make, there is a risk and consequence. So many people are going to be concerned about returning into the workplace because they haven't really assessed their own risk. And really reflect on perspective. And as we said, we're all in the same storm, just in a different boat. Reach out to your partners, whether that be peers, friends, or neighbors, or family, who are in a similar boat. Find out what their thoughts are. What's their perspective? What bag of pixie dust do they have that they can lend you in an effort to make this a smoother transition and allow us to look at it objectively rather than reactively? So, accept the eventuality. This is something that is going to happen. And I always tried in my own head to keep perspective. Is it a problem or a challenge? Yeah, it is, but we really can kind of take a look at it as an opportunity. Like I said, never let a crisis go to waste. What silver linings have you found throughout the past 14 or 15 months as a result of either being in your work environment or working virtually? And again, hoping to have that opportunity to share that with your peers. So external influences, I think we do have a playbook. I'm optimistic that we are rounding the clubhouse turn. People still are divided on vaccinations, not on their efficacy, but whether or not we should, how we're going to manage those who choose not to get vaccinated. There is that existential stress and anxiety. And what I mean by that directly goes to having our world not necessarily be as predictable as we would like it to be. And that kind of gives you, I'm not really sure what I'm anxious or nervous about, but I know it's something. And I think it is that lack of predictability. And again, that optimism is something I want us walking around with buckets. That's in buckets. That's what allows us to adapt. And that's what's kept us moving forward on kind of that resilient path. So strategy one, really kind of manage what's in front of you. And by that, I mean, when we practice mindfulness and resilience, really think about, okay, I'm a little stressed and I'm kind of acting out a little bit. I'm really kind of snappy with my family. So think about, what am I thinking about? What am I concentrating on? Oh, that's right. I have an assignment due by the end of today, and there's no way I'm going to get it completed. So that kicks off that fight or flight response, that anxiety that we feel. So now we understand what we're thinking and how we're feeling. And of course, that's probably going to make me a little bit irritable. But once you find out what's in front of you, okay, I have this assignment. Okay, what options do I have? And there are options to every situation in the world. There really are. We may not like what those options are, but at least we can choose those options and make decisions, again, that are moving us forward. And we can choose to manage what's in front of us. That's all part of our mindset and our perspective. Strategy two, really take a look and look back. It is amazing how well we've adapted and evolved through this. New routines, professional and personal, are definitely going to be a part of it. With the virtual workplaces do work. And many people are going to have a hard time wrapping their head around, why do I have to return into my workspace? Really thinking about safety in the workplace. I think that's on everybody's mind, both from the top down. Everybody's concerned about safety. We've seen when we lift restrictions that usually there's a wave that goes through. So I'm not a medical practitioner. I don't know if we are going to have a wave as a result of the no longer mandated masks for most situations and most people. But I think there is going to be some kind of changes that we're going to have to adapt to. Strategy three, this is really the most important thing. Acknowledge that it is stressful, regardless if it's in relation to return to work or other issues that we have personally and professionally. Information does help relieve stress. Again, we may not like what we hear, but at least we have an understanding of the why things are occurring. So it's that frequent two-way communication. And I often say to people, we think people can read our minds. So we are feeling that distressed. Might look at a leader or a peer or a family member and say, can't you see I'm struggling? And for many people, they just aren't as receptive. So understand, you don't get what you don't ask for. And no, people cannot read our minds. So it's important that we do this in a team approach and really making sure that we're communicating frequently, honestly, and objectively. I think it's also good if we kind of just slow down a little bit. I'm okay with the frequency, but I don't think it needs to have an update every day. And an update comes from those people who we know and trust, those people who have the information that we can rely on to make decisions. At this time too, I really think the rumor mill is going to start flying. We're already starting to see it in a number of our groups, and even in our own company. It's difficult to get away from those. But rumor control is really important at this time too, so we can make decisions that impact us personally and professionally. So staying up to date, I'm not sure what's going on, how you guys are managing this, just taking this in generally generic way. All of this is still in and around our area in Pennsylvania. It is still a part of numerous states. And I know that New York and New Jersey, I think, have chosen not to go or lift the ban on physical distancing and masks. So it is important that we stay up to date, not only what's going on with our lives in terms of our workspace and our professional lives, but what's going on out of that area that reaches beyond us, what's going on in the state, what's going on in the states, and see how that impacts us. I do think travel restrictions are going to be lifted, and no better time than now. And again, I really encourage people to take that time off. And yes, it's okay to take time off without having to involve your family. I know that guilt is the gift that keeps on giving, but we really do need, human beings do need that opportunity to just kind of take a break from everything and do what's necessary to relax and recharge. We can't run at this pace forever. So number 5, try to maintain routines regarding your work and home activities. Routines are comforting, and those are going to be challenged. We're going to have to be a little bit flexible with our schedules and routines. And it really is about expectations, and really is about our our perspective. Realistic really isn't a word I try to use. Realistic's kind of relative, but are they objective? Do they meet the need? Are they in line with my values and what I think about? Empathy, this is really new for everybody. So empathy is the ability to kind of be aware of your own thoughts and feelings and how they impact you, and extending that to others. Can we read people's body language? Do we have an understanding when somebody might be challenged? And take a look at, if it's me, you see that I'm struggling, well, what could help relieve Matt's struggle? That's what true empathy is. And we talked about flexibility and really kind of looking for changes in people's behavior. And those changes can be very subtle. But as we'd mentioned earlier, changes in behavior are recognized through people's performance personally and professionally. And for many people, not just returning into the workspace, but just the overall challenges that they've been experiencing and have just been ramped up as a result of COVID. I'm talking about those who experience maybe depression, anxiety. We've seen an incredible increase, almost 21%, of people's substance use and abuse. And I'm not judging that. I think many people are using alcohol as an example to medicate for that existential angst, that thing that they just can't put their finger on, where they are experiencing challenges where instead of reaching out for support, either through their faith, through the EAP, through their peers, they're relying on alcohol. And it works really well, but it is short-lived. It's a maladaptive way to address maybe your sleep disturbances, your feelings of anxiety or depression, or other challenging events that you're experiencing. So addressing the challenges, we really have to ID what those are. We have to identify what that's going to be like and kind of future plan it. What's it going to be like next week? How am I going to manage this? Do I have a plan in place when I do have a setback? And understanding that, if we do have a setback, I always try to walk in with 2 plans. That way, when the first one doesn't work, I'm not surprised. I can look at it more neutrally and then put my second plan into action. I know this next one really is kind of a no-brainer, but I really want to state it out loud. Perfection is impossible. There is no one perfect way to cope. There is no one perfect coping strategy. It's too dynamic of a world. So again, trying to achieve that perfection is not healthy for us. So if you're usually functioning at a 9, you find yourself at a 5, but resiliently you move yourself to like a 6 or a 7, understand that's likely good enough. We don't always have to hit it out of the park. And definitely expect resistance from your peers and your family. Many people have a different perspective of what we quote unquote should be doing as we return into our workplaces. So I always kind of look at it as kind of try, fail, learn, and adapt. I actually have those 3 words written on my blotter, and I move it forward every month because this is what we do: try, fail, learn, adapt. And then really take a look at the partnerships that we have. Again, regardless if you're faith-based, realizing the EAP can be of a great benefit to you, your dependents, parents, parents-in-law, and significant other, regardless of where they are nationally. And taking a look at the others. Find people who are in your boat or in a similar boat. And what are they doing in an effort to help move themselves forward? So really managing the expectations, setting boundaries for communication. I do think this relates to kind of that rumor time. We are excited. We get information, tidbits here, tidbits there, but we really want to look to the people who have all the tidbits in their bag and can give us that information that's important because we're making decisions in relation to it. So really think about being more objective. Again, that's the part where we kind of look at things more neutrally and don't let our bias influence or make the decisions for us. Making sure that we are being flexible with our routines. We're being flexible and patient with those around us and those who might think a little bit differently than we do. I mean, Jeff Bezos has a great statement. It's like, yeah, you can disagree, but you have to commit. And I do think about that frequently. There are a lot of things that I disagree with, but a lot of things that I may not even have a say in. So it's important at least to have an awareness of the why. And even though we disagree with it, we do have to commit. And again, really thinking about our incredible ability to adapt and be empathetic and be resilient. So it really is about safety. It really is about our personal, our overall economy. It's about our productivity, both personally and professionally. So really try to manage the expectations, especially those that we put on ourselves that no one else is holding us accountable for. I think it's really important to kind of realize that there are expectations that we place on ourselves, like that always hitting a 10, and how that puts undue stress and distress on ourselves. We can just take a look at, well, I got myself to an 8. I'm feeling pretty good about that. That's good enough, at least for now. And we think about our work-life balance. It's not just work and life. It's life balance. And it's not something that you can hold in your hand. It's a process. And it goes along with energy and time management and the decisions that we have to make to try to achieve that balance. I also want to mention one more thing. I'm going to open it up for Q&A in just a minute. I'm not implying that we should say no, but just think about time and energy as two big, huge buckets of water, okay? Time, energy. When you say yes to something, you have now turned on the tap to your energy and time. So a lot of people really do get resentful. Why does everybody come to me all the time? Well, because you say yes most of the time. And how about sometimes reflexively, can you help me with this project? Can you do this? Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. And as soon as you say that, you're thinking, wow, I really wish I hadn't done that. So just remember, energy is a renewable resource, but we don't have endless amounts of it, especially through our day-to-day. Time is a non-renewable resource. Once it's gone, it's gone. So be aware that this whole thing is about managing time and our energy. And every time we say yes to something, understand that our buckets are getting a little less full. All right, so moving forward, we're going to stumble, no doubt. It's going to be different. It's going to be weird, no doubt about it. It's going to bring new challenges, but we also agreed that that can be an opportunity. We're still going to have to be commit to being flexible and adapt as we move through this. And for many, they're going to struggle with that adaptation. We talked about the necessity to kind of really take a look at rumor control and really be aware that people can't read our minds. So communication is really going to be key, certainly in the next few weeks, and then ongoing throughout the rest of the year. All right, so what's the difference between back then and now? And I'd like to have your awareness of this. I'd like to hear what you have to say. What are 3 things that you miss between then and now? And what are 3 things maybe that you're looking forward to? All right, so there are resources that we discussed I'll leave this screen up just so we can kind of remember that, we need to stay connected, that there are resources available. And when they say there's an app for everything, they are not kidding around. All right, so let me go back and put that back up. I'm going to take myself off the share feature and open it up to any questions that you folks may have. So my camera's over here, you guys are over here. So sorry about my profile. So thank you very much. What's on your mind? Anything?
Is John Martin there? John? I have a question, sir.
Certainly.
I had Johnson & Johnson vaccine on March 27,
Yes.
and on exact 21st day of that vaccine, I had severe headache right here.
Mhm.
And I ignored that, it could be food, or it could be acid reflux, or it could be, I didn't sleep properly or something like that. That's what I felt next day. The headache was persistent on the same thing. It was not radiating, no stomach pain or backache or swelling legs or anything. But third day also, the things continued. I'm just telling my story. I love to go back to work and, want to see my peers and wanted to do my job 100%. So third day, my wife asked me to check my blood work, which we did. So my blood platelet count came out 105. In my entire 50 years of life, my blood platelet count never went down below 180.
Okay.
Still, I ignored. The headache was persistent. So that fourth day, I still ignored. Fifth day, I still ignored. On Friday, she asked me to go and check my blood work again, which I did. So my blood platelet count came 128. So that was like 26th day or 25th day after the vaccination. I don't exactly recall. And then on Sunday, we had a little party for my daughter outside in my driveway, and one of my neighbor who is a pharmacist, and I explained her my story that I'm having a severe headache here and my blood platelet count keep dropping.
Sandra, let me ask you something real quick. One, I'm not a medical practitioner. I certainly hope that you reached out and did get some resources for that.
Yeah, so she asked me to, without thinking a second, go to ER, which I did. I went to JFK Medical Center emergency room.
Right. And just to stand up, hold on a minute. Do you want your peers to hear about your medical? I'm just doing this for your own sake. Do you want your peers to hear about your medical issues?
No, I'm just explaining.
Okay.
Everybody can understand that, these are the things completely new for humankind.
Absolutely.
It's changing human history. I'm losing one friend or relative every day in India for last 10 days.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I am really very sorry to hear about that. I've been watching that on the news as well.
So I went to ER. They scanned me. They said, you don't have a blood clot right now, but if the thing may persist, you may come back. And they checked my blood work and everything. They couldn't find any antibodies at all after Johnson & Johnson vaccine more than 29 days. My headache was still persistent. So they asked me to go in touch with my regular doctor, which I went. And he prescribed me some blood work, which I'm going to do next week, about these kind of things, how come there is no antibody is showing up in your blood work or any kind of, so they have prescribed me the most modern one, which is invented by I don't know which company. In meantime, I try to reach out CDC, Johnson and Johnson, Palm Beach County Health Department, Florida Department of Health, everybody. They keep saying, go to ER, go to ER, go to ER. Nobody has proper answer for you, which I did.
It has to be frustrating.
So it creates anxiety when I'm working here at home since 6 o'clock in the morning till 12 in the night, because sometime I may need to run to doctor right away. So that gives me a little bit of flexibility working from home. I would love to come back, work in the office and everything, but I'm still under investigation by the doctor. And next Thursday, they're gonna go through blood work first, and then they prescribe me one more CT scan, which I have not scheduled yet, because they wanted to see that some kind of most modern antibody test to be performed on me on Thursday. So here is my request, that is it possible for me to apply with the school district to give me like couple of weeks of stay at home and work kind of arrangement with some kind of forms or some kind of permission or some kind of thing which I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, Sand, if that's
So
not,
at least I can get medically clear, because the anxiety I have is this, that okay, if I walk in the building on Monday morning and I feel that I don't have antibodies and I may gonna come across to many people, and even though I will be protected myself with the mask and shield and gloves and everything, whatever it could be possible as a human for myself, but still the thing is, it's still scary. So here is my request, that is it possible for me to get 2 weeks of extension so I can go ahead and get myself medically cleared by these doctors?
Yeah,
So
you have a lot going on. There's no question about it. You have a lot going on. I'm not the one who can really answer that.
When I'm talking to you, I would have
a private conversation with your HR department. They're the ones who are going to be able to assist and help you manage this going forward. I'd also encourage you, just because you've been very candid about it, to remind you that there are resources available to help you with the medical and certainly the anxiety that you must be feeling. And I do understand, and I feel for you, especially those of your kin and your friends overseas. But this isn't something that we can manage in this format. I'd encourage you to call and touch base with HR and utilize the other resources.
Yeah, because there are 7 known cases of these kind of blood clots in America. I don't want to be an 8th one.
No, I don't want you to be either.
So that's why I'm making a request. Whoever so concerned person here, including my manager and my director, if he's here, please give me a kind of 2 weeks of extension if I have to fill out some paperwork, or if something that I can go ahead and get myself medically clear. So when I come back, I have the confidence that, that I may have a least amount of chances to contract this virus, even though I'm vaccinated.
Right, and that's going to be a private conversation you have with your HR department, Sandip. They're the ones who answer your questions and relieve some of those fears.
I said this in a public platform because there could be many more people who are not aware of these kind of things, whether they have it or not. That's why I said in a public place rather than.
I'm hearing from HR on the chat box that you definitely should speak with your manager and also contact HR call center and looking at taking a leave of absence. So let's see if anybody else has any questions, but I'm sorry you're experiencing that. I really want to see if we can get HR to help you. But I want to see if there's anybody else. I know there's a few questions that came through in the chat box. They're more about kind of, Matt, they're kind of more about, building questions and safety there. And, but maybe can you just for a second address concerns about, how to deal with the concerns, the fears about contracting COVID.
Sure.
We don't know who's been vaccinated, and some people, can you address that real quick for us, please?
Sure, it's a very valid concern. And I think what we're seeing now, as we did in the beginning, there's mixing of information. We're only hearing maybe tidbits. We might be hearing about this through a very specific news source or a certain social feed. I'd really kind of reach out and really get the responses directly from whomever your personal physician is. I think that's probably one of the better ways of going through and getting this, staying up to date on what the various health organizations are stating. But I don't know what normal is, but let me tell you something. I know it's natural to be fearful. I know it's natural to be concerned. This was the greatest, basically, purge in our entire lives, and we were definitely not prepared for it. So anything that we can do to make things a little bit more predictable and look at things not optimistically, objectively, and not allow our fear in the contagion. It's real, it's there, but really assess your risk and get as much information about it that you can so we can relieve some of that anxiety. And organizations, I think, know that people are very concerned about returning, and they're going to do everything they can to maintain a safe work environment. But we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. So again, that's that future thinking, trying to be objective and get as much information as you can. Another person has indicated that they're isolated from others with very little to no contact. Yeah, we've been very concerned, excuse me, about people whose resources might be different than others. And I know that there is a tendency, especially when we are distressed, to kind of isolate and kind of retreat. And I'm sure that's not what you're indicating, but whatever you can do to increase that contact. Human beings crave social contact, most do. And there are opportunities to stay connected, whether that's with family or friends. We have an incredible resource in the various platforms so we can meet face to face. I love seeing disembodied heads. I much prefer to see people on camera than not, because it's just a way to connect. But whatever you need or whatever you can do to help connect with others, whether that's volunteer work, even just being outside and, going for a walk, you always meet people who are at the park at the same time. Like my father-in-law, he met a great group of people that he cares a great deal about because he goes to the gym so early in the morning. And over the course of a couple of weeks, they really got to be very friendly. So whatever we can do to increase or to decrease that sense of isolation, I would really encourage you to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm recording the chat box as well. So some of the questions that have come through regarding, questions about building, concerns and everything like that, I will be sure to get them to the correct people to answer those questions, because I don't even have all the answers. So we will do that. But it's all around that fear, that unknown, right? Those concerns, and they're very valid. And what we're going to do is we're just going to step in with these tools given to us today and do the best we can.
And one thing I would advise too, I really think it's important to think about, it's difficult to be optimistic, but we are making incredible strides. We really are. And I'm not trying to cram this down your throat, but really if we think about where we've been and where we are currently and where we are going to, I strongly believe, personally and professionally, that there is room for optimism. And optimism is a great way to kind of clear your mind of those kind of thoughts, those perseverative thoughts that we sometimes get, those that keep us awake at night because we may not feel that we have control over things. So we do have control over our mindset. We have control over where and how much information we consume. We're in control of whom we decide to hang out with and making sure that we're hanging out with those people who can be supportive. And again, going back to those feelings of isolation, there are resources available through the EAP and through the website that might be very assistive to you. So I'd encourage folks, utilize the EAP, utilize your faith, whatever it is that you find supportive, and do it proactively. Do it sooner rather than later. Do it when there's a spark of flame on the hayloft instead of waiting for the barn to burn down.
Thank you very much for taking my question.
Certainly.
Carly, I just wanted to say in the question about the entrances, I've been going in once a week, since all this began. But the last time that I was there, the entrances, at least to the east and right behind school police, are active. I'm assuming C Wing as well. If they have any questions, I know they can call the front desk. They'll tell them what entrances will be open for that. And also the question about the air conditioning system. I know that there's been crews there the last 2 Tuesdays that I have been there, and they've been vacuuming all the air conditioning ducts. They had air filters in each department where, as they're vacuuming, all the air is being cleaned. So if that can answer that question, they definitely have been doing that, and smells very fresh in there actually. So I think it's all clean.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maida. I appreciate that. And a couple of these, I think maybe Don, I don't know if Don's on the call, but he could probably, I don't know what the procedure has been for letting employees know about the protocols that are in place, if you are sick or whatnot. So, we have better access to that being in risk and benefits, but I want to make sure that that is, somehow communicated to all employees.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. Again, a lot of these things that we're talking about in terms of mindset and being objective, it's intentional. And we really have to make it a part of our mindset and kind of, again, that future thinking and making sure that we're addressing things that we have control over. So I do want to wish you guys good luck. Thank you for coming out. I always think about, think of 3 things differently and put 1 into practice. And again, if there are no other questions, thank you very much. And I will turn it over to Carly to close us out. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate your time today. And we will be having other resources available once we get back into the building. We're working on some avenues, some resources, but please always remember, as Matt had mentioned, that EAP is available to you to call. You can call the number. Charlotte, if you could put the number in the chat box real quick for me, please. You can call at any time you, spouse or partner, family members, and talk to someone. So at any time, if you feel that you need that, please take advantage of that, especially during this time of uncertainty and change in our lives. So we will be having some resources available, some sessions maybe to do, some articles to read, things available to you as we work our way back. Thank you, Matt. Work our way back into the building on Monday. So I do look forward to seeing everybody, though, when we get back. And I'm going to end the call on that note. But if you have any other questions,